Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Brownface bombshell. A 2001 photo of Justin Trudeau at a Vancouver party rocks the federal election campaign. Also,
it's concerning for sure. I mean, we really don't want our youth to be using these products.
Canada's first vaping-related illness puts a teen in the ICU. And
it's devastating. It's devastating.
An angry mother. Charges stayed against an RCMP officer who fatally shot a young South Surrey man.
In 2001, when I was a teacher out in Vancouver, I attended an end-of-year gala where the theme was Arabian Nights. And I dressed up in an Aladdin costume and put makeup on. I shouldn't have done that. I should have known better, but I didn't, and I'm really sorry.
A hasty apology on the campaign plane tonight from Liberal leader Justin Trudeau after this photo surfaced of him wearing brown face makeup. It dates back 18 years to when he was a teacher at West Point Grey Academy in Vancouver.
good evening. The backlash has been swift tonight, with the photo making waves across the country and right around the world.
Dan Burrett joins us live now on this story. Dan, what more is Justin Trudeau saying tonight?
Justin Trudeau is acting contrite. He looks embarrassed, and he says he ought to have known better. The photo is getting attention from media around the world. Trudeau and the Liberals have been going after other candidates and other parties for inappropriate comments and photos in this election, but now it's his turn to respond. Asked if he would resign today, Trudeau says he's going to ask Canadians to forgive him. He admits this is not the first time he's dressed up like this.
Mr. Trudeau, is that the only time in your life you've ever done something like that?
When I was in high school, I dressed up at a talent show and sang Deo with makeup on.
Justin Trudeau on the campaign plane tonight. Dan, what are other party leaders saying about this?
Well, we spoke with Jagmeet Singh before Justin Trudeau issued his apology. Singh is not impressed.
Well, it's troubling. I mean, it's insulting. Anytime we hear examples of brownface or blackfacing, it's making a mockery of someone for what they live and what their lived experiences are. I think he needs to answer for it. I think he's got to answer the question why he did that.
Now, Green Party leader Elizabeth May says in a tweet she is shocked by the racism shown in the photo and he must apologize, quote, for the harm done and commit to learning and appreciating the requirement to model social justice leadership at all levels of government. In this matter, he has failed. We're still waiting to hear from Conservative leader Andrew Scheer. Meanwhile, the National Council of Muslim Canadians called this deeply saddening, and they called on Trudeau to unequivocally apologize. A short time ago, they tweeted, "We thank the Prime Minister for his apology. It came less than an hour after the council called on him to apologize for wearing brownface/blackface. Promises made, promises kept. That is the NCCM way." And we'll have much more on this story tonight at 11. Anita, Mike?
And not only at 11, we'll actually have more on this story later in the show, including reaction from people here in Vancouver. Thank you, Dan.
You bet.
A teen in Ontario was put on life support after vaping. It's the first Canadian case to link the use of e-cigarettes to respiratory illnesses.
It comes after hundreds of similar reports in the U.S., a number of them fatal. As Leanne Young reports, there is growing concern here in BC and how to stop teens from the harmful practice.
Congo cream, Tropica, or perhaps you'd like to escape with some ice watermelon. The many flavors of the vape world, and it's got some hooked. Joe Chu says he sees teens trying to buy from his store far too often.
Every day, yeah, like 10 minutes ago, there's a guy walking there. I thought he's an adult, and eventually I asked him to show me his ID, and he was only 18 years old.
To be inside a vape shop like this, you have to be at least 19 years old, and the product can't be displayed or seen from the outside, and so walls are blacked out.
But despite these rules, teens across the country are embracing vaping in a big way and getting their hands on the products. In Ontario, a teen needed to be put on life support after doing it daily.
As far as we are aware, this is the first case of vaping-related illness that's been reported in Canada.
It comes after more than 300 cases of severe illness in the U.S. Some of them, the teens died. In 2013, the BC Adolescent Health Survey found 16% of grades 7 through 12 students have vaped with nicotine. In the latest survey, that number grew to 21%, more than 1 in 5 teens.
Young people were telling us it is cool to vape.
Youth researcher Annie Smith worked with teens to analyze that data, and she's heard misconceptions. Some teens don't think vaping is harmful at all. Others say because there's little long-term research, you can't prove yet if it's bad for you.
Young people will make informed decisions when they have the information in front of them, but we as adults are scrambling to pull that information together.
We are caught in this tricky situation of regulating this product in such a way that it becomes less attractive to youth, but remains attractive for adult addicted smokers who can't or won't quit smoking cigarettes.
He argues more needs to be done to regulate the products and its marketing. The province agrees and says more work needs to be done.
Doing the work will involve tougher laws. Doing the work will involve more enforcement. Doing the work will involve engaging with young people.
But that will take time. Experts say don't hold your breath, just put down the vape if you can. Leanne Young, CBC News, Vancouver.
And with health problems linked to vaping on the rise, India is clamping down on the industry as a whole.
Production, manufacturing, import, export, transport, or sale, or even distribution and storage and advertisement relating e-cigarettes are all banned.
The ban is being imposed through an executive order of cabinet and must be approved by lawmakers in the next session of Parliament later this year. Those who break the new law could face jail time of up to 3 years, a $7,000 fine, or both. The cabinet says this step is needed to ensure e-cigarette use doesn't become an epidemic in the country. It's not clear whether the actual use of e-cigarettes will also be banned.
Meanwhile, 2 U.S. states are also cracking down on e-cigarettes. Bans in New York and Michigan include almost all flavored vaping liquids. In New York, only menthol and tobacco flavors will still be on the shelves. Michigan is going further, banning menthol flavors as well. The bans come after a 7th person died from a vaping-related illness in that country. U.S. President Donald Trump has publicly discussed implementing a similar ban nationwide.
Family and supporters of a young man shot to death by an RCMP officer in 2015 are in shock tonight. Charges against the officer have now been stayed. Constable Elizabeth Kucherin had been charged with assault with a weapon and aggravated assault for shooting 20-year-old Hudson Brooks. He died after what police described as a physical struggle outside the South Surrey RCMP detachment. Brooks was unarmed, shirtless, and shoeless, and behaving erratically after consuming alcohol and cocaine. The charges were stayed because Crown decided the officer behaved reasonably in the circumstances.
I'm devastated, devastated. You shoot a young boy 9 times? 9 times at close range? Well, he has shoes and a shirt, no shoes, nothing. And you call it excited delirium, and that's why you're not going to do this? Well, guess what? Half of Canada better watch out, because when you're walking down the street and you need help, you'll get shot 9 times, go through 4.5 years of complete hell.
Jennifer Brooks thanked the community for its support in her fight for justice for her son.
The RCMP are searching for 2 suspects and a stolen car after a carjacking at UBC. A woman told police she was returning to her car on the 10th floor of the West Parkade on the Lower Mall when 2 men approached her. She said one produced a small handgun and demanded her keys. The men escaped in the woman's car, a 2007 Kia Spectra. License plate number is 308 PSG. Police warn the public to call 911 and not to approach the car if it's seen.
New pictures of the severed cable from the Sea to Sky gondola have been released as part of a report confirming the damage was intentional. The report from Technical Safety BC says the cable was partially cut before the remaining strands snapped under the weight of the gondola cabins, and that otherwise there's no evidence the cable was defective in any way. Parts of the report, including how the cable was cut, are redacted in light of the RCMP investigation. Technical Safety BC calls the vandalism extremely dangerous and that whoever cut the cable and anyone near the gondola cabins when they fell could have been badly hurt or killed.
Well, people who use drugs on Vancouver's downtown east side are being negatively impacted by police, according to a new study.
But as the CBC's Estefania Duran reports tonight, not everyone agrees with the study.
The sight of police officers in the downtown east side is common, on patrol, walking the beat, making arrests. But a new study says that very presence is putting people's lives at risk.
Some of the routine policing practices, like parking outside of an overdose prevention site, like stopping people and running their warrants, like an intensified presence in and around overdose prevention sites and other interventions, all of these things mean that people don't go to them.
Some also reported that they hesitate when it's time to call paramedics for fear that police may show up as well. But not everyone agrees with the study, calling it out of date and not reflective of the current situation.
We also have expanded overdose prevention services in Vancouver since the study took place, and the data shows that many people are visiting these sites. In fact, the numbers have increased dramatically since the study took place, and that's evidence that people are able to access the sites.
Another change has been legal protection for those calling 911 for an overdose. And while she sees some truth in the study, she stopped short at blaming police, saying their role in the downtown east side is instrumental.
We also have implemented new treatment services in Vancouver with funding from both the provincial government and the federal government. And the police department is now helping us to direct people to those treatment services rather than to the criminal justice system.
But some residents in the downtown east side say there's still a long way to go.
It's not good. And a lot of your normal average folks will brush it off. No, like, they deserved it, you know, and sort of this naive idea that we can trust the police. But the fact is, there's kind of, a culture of bulliness.
We reached out to the Vancouver police for comment, but they declined. Estefania Duran, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Broadway subway extension in Vancouver is becoming a little clearer today. The province has now revealed the locations of the stations on the line. The extension from VCC Clark will have 6 stops: Great Northern Way, Mount Pleasant, Broadway City Hall, Fairview, VGH, South Granville, and Arbutus. The last 5 stations will be on the underground portion of the line. Broadway City Hall will connect the extension to the Canada line. The project is budgeted to cost $2.8 billion.
Meteorologist Brent Soderholm joins us now with our first check of the forecast. That turned out to be a pretty nice day today.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was a nice surprise in some ways to see the sun and to feel it first thing this morning. But it gave me a reason to think about how rainy it has been so far this month. And I wanted to crunch the numbers for you. In Vancouver, at least throughout the month of September, we would average about 51 millimeters of rain. We're only getting into about the 3rd week now of September, and we've already seen 65 millimeters. So we are above average. And in fact, a third of that fell on a single day, and that was last Thursday. That broke the dry spell that we had been seeing for the entire month. Now, is there more rain in the forecast? There will be a little bit, but for the most part, it is going to be a drying trend until we get to the weekend. You can see right here on our satellite radar imagery, there isn't a lot going on there. Some nice blue skies, in fact, and temperatures, as far as they're concerned, are very close to seasonal. So definitely a nice change from what we'd been seeing a little bit earlier on. Now, our temperatures for the overnight period, these are going to be getting down to the low side. It is worth mentioning that if you're out toward Richmond, New West, even Surrey, we could go down to single digits, making it about 9 degrees for the overnight period. But for the downtown core, at least, we'd be looking closer to about 12 degrees. And as far as temperatures tomorrow are concerned, we're going to be looking again very close to seasonal. Lots of 18s all across the region, including the Tri-Cities. I do want to emphasize we are going to be looking at a mostly cloudy day tomorrow, but we only have the slightest risk for showers when we head into the late evening hours. I'll have more on that, though, when I come back.
All right, thanks, Brett.
You're welcome.
Well, they bested the Ottawa Red Blacks last Friday, but the BC Lions, well, they're still the worst team in Canadian football.
There's no denying it. With a record of 2-10, the team is struggling with low attendance. But as Jesse Johnston explains, if you are in charge of getting the crowd pumped up, it helps if you're a little wild.
One love, baby, one family. His real name is Patrick Thomas, but for obvious reasons, he's better known as Crazy P. For 15 years, Crazy P has been the BC Lions hype man. And this season has been a challenge. The Lions are in last place, and they average fewer than 18,000 fans a game. I feel this. We are hungry. We're ready to eat. But if you focus on the hype man instead of the standings and empty seats, you'd never know. BC's record is 2-10.
You know, if you had a child, a son or a daughter, and they're playing, you know, sports and they weren't winning, you know, would you just give up on your kid? Would you know, oh, they suck and not be a part of that?
We're hungry. The Lions haven't eaten in a while. His analogy fits because, in a way, some of the fans here have become family. This is my friend Crazy A.
I was his first fan.
First fan. She was like 4 or 5 years old. And Crazy P met Crazy A when she was a little girl. Now, she's 17. When they met, she was introducing him to her dolls. Today,
4 months, all right.
he's meeting her boyfriend. Then there's Ethan, who's been Crazy P's pal since he was a little boy. Now, he's a college student. Ethan is nonverbal, so he wrote down what Crazy P's friendship means to him and got his buddy Josh to read it for us.
People often talk to me like I'm a baby or unintelligent, but P has always treated me like a regular guy. He's just such a great guy. Sometimes people are nice to me because they want to feel good about themselves, but P makes me feel like he genuinely likes me.
If you're at a Lions game this year and you see the guy who looks like he guzzled a triple espresso and chased it with the Red Bull, Let's have fun today, okay? Now you know why he's screaming like a madman for a last-place team. The crowds are sparse these days, but when you have friends like Ethan to keep you coming back, you'd have to be crazy to quit. Jesse Johnston, CBC News, Vancouver.
Every team needs a Crazy P.
Every team does. And he's right. You got to cheer your team through the good times and the bad.
Always.
These are definitely
If you're a
the
true
bad.
fan, yes, that's what you do.
Exactly.
All right, well, you can watch this newscast and all of CBC's other award-winning content wherever you go. All you have to do is download the free CBC Gem app.
And CBC Vancouver is also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Follow us on all those platforms for extra content you won't see on TV. He says he is deeply sorry and regrets it. Coming up, more reaction to Justin Trudeau's brown-face bombshell photo from a Vancouver party that's rocked the federal election campaign. And welcome to our live streams tonight. Thanks for staying with us through the TV commercial break. A Canadian comedian is hoping to shake up late-night TV with a different voice and a very different kind of show.
Yes, YouTube star Lilly Singh made her much-anticipated debut this week on NBC, and Johanna Reid has more on what sets her apart.
Hello, my name is Lily, and I ain't a white man. My skin got some color, and it ain't a spray tan. I know
Canadian comedian Lilly Singh says she's ready to disrupt the late-night lineup. And the YouTube star turned NBC host did just that with the premiere of her new show, A Little Late with Lilly Singh.
This used to be a boys' club, but I'm knocking down the doors.
The 30-year-old is the only woman of color to currently host a late-night show on a major network.
I'm not your traditional talk show host. I mean, the media
Singh took over longtime host Carson Daly's 1:35 a.m. slot, which he held for 18 seasons.
Come on! I'm more than just a bisexual woman of color, okay? It's a complete coincidence that I chose a network whose logo is also the pride flag.
A Little Late's executive producer says he knew Singh was the voice the network needed. Her vision, late night without the politics.
Because I think you can turn on any one of these shows right now, and for the most part, you're getting the same messaging every single day.
But politics is what many of her late-night counterparts have used to bolster their audiences. Irwin believes Singh's perspective and voice is what viewers want.
You're not tuning in because of who is on the show that night. You're tuning in because you have connected with that particular piece of talent.
Listen, buddy. Dwayne, rock! What are you doing here? Oh, my hormones.
NBC hopes audiences connect with Singh in the same way she connected with 15 million subscribers on her YouTube channel, an audience she built on her own.
She has tremendous crossover potential because she's already demonstrated as a YouTuber the ability to make a lot of content, a lot of versatile content that resonates with a large fan base.
Another challenge ahead, adapting from the wild, wild west of YouTube to network TV.
You got this.
In terms of her actual characters and some of the themes from her channel, it will be interesting to see how she transitions into the new medium without alienating her old fans.
Now, I know we just started the interview, and I don't want to make this all about me, but how do you think I'm doing thus far?
You were killing it.
Do you think so?
Now it's up to Singh to keep the momentum going. Shoshana Reed, CBC News, Toronto.
Love her. And it's great, eh? A woman.
And a brown woman.
On network TV.
It's amazing.
Isn't that incredible?
I'm not sure I'll be up at 1:20 in the morning to
No, that's
watch,
a PVR for us, I think.
Yeah.
Set it and watch that for sure. All right, coming up next, we'll have the latest on the campaign trail controversy involving Justin Trudeau. We're right here in a sec.
Back to our top story now. Liberal leader Justin Trudeau rushed to apologize for a photo that emerged showing him wearing brown face.
In a scrum with reporters on his campaign plane tonight, he told Canadians he is sorry that he should have known better.
But he has also said that it is not the only such incident in his past. As David Cochrane explains, it's a hit to Trudeau's image at a crucial time.
This is certainly not how Canadians are used to seeing a prime minister who likes to say that diversity is Canada's strength. Justin Trudeau in a turban and robe, dark makeup on his face, neck, and hands. It's certainly not how Trudeau wants to be seen in an election campaign.
Dressed up in an Aladdin costume and put makeup on. I shouldn't have done that. I should have known better, but I didn't. And I'm really sorry.
Time magazine published the picture, which was taken at an Arabian Nights themed event at the Vancouver private school where Trudeau taught in 2001. It forced Trudeau to hold an emergency news conference aboard his plane at the Halifax airport to try to explain himself. Is that the only time in your life you've ever done something like that?
When I was in high school, I dressed up at a talent show and sang Deo. With makeup on. I'm going to be asking Canadians to forgive me for what I did. I shouldn't have done that. I take responsibility for it. It was a dumb thing to do. I'm disappointed in myself. I'm pissed off at myself for having done it. I wish I hadn't done it, but I did it, and I apologize for it.
Trudeau has made diversity a bedrock principle of his government, emphasizing it in his cabinet, where Canadians of diverse backgrounds hold major roles. During this campaign, the Liberals have repeatedly attacked the Conservatives for controversial social media posts, many of them racially insensitive. But now, this. It's been a core tactic of the Liberal campaign to this point to try to paint Andrew Scheer and his party as racially intolerant, and now it's the Liberals who are scrambling to contain a bombshell, as it's their leader who champions diversity and multiculturalism, who was photographed dressed in brownface, and he's done it more than once. David Cochrane, CBC News, Halifax.
Now, before the bombshell picture came out, Trudeau spent much of the day on the campaign trail making promises for seniors, while the NDP and Conservatives made promises to appeal to all ages.
So which party is going to do enough to win over older voters? Kayla Hunsell has the story.
These seniors were playing bridge while Justin Trudeau was making his seniors announcement. But they're engaged, some proudly displaying their colors. And they have opinions on Trudeau's promise to boost old age security and the Canada Pension Plan.
I think that's really great for my generation, but
You know, there's a whole another generation coming behind us that have gotten so little.
That's why Joanne Coffey says her #1 priority this time around is not something traditionally seen as a seniors issue, the environment.
I've voted Liberal before, I voted NDP, I voted the Marxist-Leninist Party of Canada, but I'm going to vote Elizabeth May this time.
Questions, partner? Lorraine Heffler is concerned about a national pharmacare program.
Because there are many, many seniors who cannot afford their prescriptions.
But she too says the environment is her priority.
Because as far as I'm concerned, if that isn't dealt with, then nothing else is going to matter.
Ron Harnish agrees their generation has already been dealt a pretty good hand in life. It's time to focus on the future.
One of my main concerns is that we can't seem to get candidates who are prepared to act on behalf of the people. They always seem to be out for their best interests.
He hasn't quite decided how he'll vote. He's narrowed it down to 2 choices and will be watching closely for the remainder of the campaign. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
A high school student put on life support after using e-cigarettes consistently. After the break, we will dive deeper into the concerns and warnings.
The federal leaders debate is happening October 7th. Do you have a question for the party leaders? Send it in, and it could be asked. Go to cbcnews.ca/debate and submit.
Here are some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
She had no remorse, and now it's devastating.
Charges have been stayed against an RCMP officer who fatally shot a 20-year-old South Surrey man. Now, Hudson Brooks' mother is outraged.
There should be more regulations in terms of health warnings, in terms of banning some of those proven to be harmful.
A teen was put on life support after what's being called Canada's first vaping-related illness. He's now off and recovering at home, but the case is prompting some big warnings. 7 deaths in the U.S. have been linked to vaping, as well as hundreds of cases of illness.
As Katie Nicholson shows us, those concerns, as you've seen, have come to Canada.
Andrew Makijani is all about healthy living, except for one little thing. He vapes.
The only thing it kind of gives me sometimes is that buzz.
That buzz killed today by Canada's first case of vaping-related illness in a London area teen.
They had quite a severe illness course, including ICU life support. The individual recovered.
Officials wouldn't say which vaping product the patient used or how much of it. In the U.S., where there have been nearly 400 cases of vaping-related illnesses and 7 deaths, the Centers for Disease Control found most cases involved the use of THC products. That's information this vape store owner says is crucial.
I think it's very important to see what the actual product was that's caused this damage. And we didn't get to the heart of the matter.
Despite that, vaping researcher David Hammond says 2 things are clear.
So number 1, we need to get a better handle of the industry and what's in these products. Number 2, it just reinforces the message that young people should not be vaping. This is not a benign or harmless activity.
It's something Ontario will now keep tabs on. Today, its health minister ordered hospitals to track all serious cases of vaping-related illnesses.
To understand exactly what the scope of the problem is.
It's something Alberta is already doing. And just this afternoon, the BC health minister called for more to be done to control who is vaping what.
Tougher laws. Doing the work will involve more enforcement. Doing the work will involve engaging with young people.
Back at the gym, news of the teen vapors' hospitalization sinking in and making an impact.
I'm going to quit by December because, I don't know, I feel like...
Oh, that's good. I'm proud of you.
A little less puffing and a little more huffing and puffing. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
A live look at downtown, looking north at 6:32 on this Wednesday evening. Plenty of sunshine on the south coast today, but don't get too used to it. Brett's going to tell us when the rain will return next. Forest fires in Indonesia and Malaysia have created a choking smog, raising concerns for health and the tourism economy of the Southeast Asian island nation.
Both countries are ramping up efforts to clear the air by making it rain. Chemicals are mixed for cloud seeding in hopes that the water droplets will form and rain begins to fall. Many fires are intentionally set in Indonesia to clear land for palm oil and pulp and paper plantations. The resulting haze has sparked school and airport closures and led to tens of thousands of cases of respiratory problems. Smog has blanketed Singapore for a fifth consecutive day, bringing air quality levels to the unhealthy range. In Borneo, the air pollution index is at dangerous levels, and more than 30 orangutans are being treated for breathing problems.
Brett is back. Beautiful day today.
Glad it was that case. I feel like we were almost waiting for that. It's been kind of rainy, of course, for the start of the week, but to have some sunshine, it kind of brought up everyone's mood, I think.
A little bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're going to change it all out.
Well, exactly. There must be a balance in all
Yeah.
things, the yin and the yang. No, not just yet. But I did want to show you a beautiful looking sunrise this morning over the North Shore Mountains. The sun is rising ever later as we get closer and closer to fall. It's at about almost 7 o'clock in the morning now, but when it does come out, it is certainly brilliant, and much of the day really was just a story of improving conditions. Temperatures very close to seasonal, not a lot of clouds in the sky, and even right now as we speak, there's quite a lot of blue sky available, which is great. Now, in terms of what we can be expecting over the next 24 hours, I don't think the sun is going to be sticking around as much tomorrow, but it also won't be raining. So it's a bit of a tricky forecast. By the time that we get into the early afternoon hours tomorrow, I'd expect more cloud to start building in than, say, sunshine. But there is something I do just want to mention. Toward the sort of 6, 7 o'clock hour, there's the slightest risk for a shower going across the region here. It's not a lot. If anything, this might just equate to some more heavy cloud cover by contrast, but we're not looking at any significant accumulation of rain at this point in time. Though, when we get to Friday, to end off the week, we're looking at conditions that are going to be very similar to what we experienced today, so a nice mixture of sun and clouds in that. Already looking ahead to the weekend, we're getting into that midweek mindset, maybe wanting to know how things are going to be going into the future. It is worth mentioning that there's a fairly strong Pacific system right now that is brewing up in the Gulf of Alaska. Throughout late Friday and into Saturday, this is going to be bringing fairly significant rain all the way down from Haida Gwaii to the north and central coast and then over to Vancouver Island. So if you are making any plans to go out to the island this weekend, do keep that in mind. However, closer to the lower mainland and into the valley, this rain should likely hold off until late Saturday night. The heaviest rain is expected to be coming throughout the overnight period, then into Sunday. And by the time that we get into the afternoon hours, this should start to be a clearing trend. Temperatures for the next little while as well going to be very close to seasonal no matter where you are across the south coast. Now, what does that translate to into your 5-day forecast? Well, tomorrow, as I mentioned, a little bit more cloud than sun, but temperatures very close to seasonal at about 18 degrees. Friday, very similarly, we're going to be looking at a mix of sun and cloud with 18. And then Saturday, much of the day is going to be nice. But if there was a day to prepare for a few showers, well, that's going to be Sunday. And then for the first day of fall on Monday, more showers to ring it in.
Fall?
Fall.
Fall is
12:50 in the morning.
Said the F word.
I know. Fall started like 3 weeks ago.
Exactly.
Felt like it.
You're not allowed to say that.
Well, how about autumn? Does that work instead? The A word?
Apparently.
Well,
Same thing?
Yeah.
F
same
word,
letter.
A word, they're all not, yeah.
Very good. All right. Thanks, Brett.
Okay.
Well, a young woman in Nunavut amazed her neighbors and herself by running nearly 100 kilometers along an isolated mountain trail.
Yeah, it took her almost 24 hours.
And as we hear from the CBC's Megan Dwelling, the experience left the woman with a profound conviction that many things that seem impossible are actually easier than they seem.
We are in beautiful Ayutthaya National Park.
Celine Jacquard had been thinking of running this pass for a few years. She just wanted to see if she could do it. Jacquard traveled light, drinking water from streams, carrying a puffy jacket, gloves, a cell phone, and 2 pounds of boiled potatoes to eat as she ran. It was smooth sailing at first.
So the first 45 kilometers is this up and mushy tundra, fairly flat, goes slightly uphill, And there's parts that are on the riverbend, kind of sandy, easier to run, and some part are hummocks, which are a bit harder.
The next 20 kilometers were hard. Jacquard was running up and down through rocky moraine. Hour 14 was the toughest.
I hadn't slept for a while, so I was a bit tired mentally. But my ankle hurt. I think I twisted them a couple of times in the moraine, so they were pretty swollen, and every step was pretty painful. So I think physically that was the hardest. The muscle were still fine, but the ankles were hurting on pretty much every step.
Jacquard says she's not a runner. To train, she hiked throughout the summer, including leading this expedition for Nunavut Youth Leap with 9 children for 2 weeks. Jacquard says she reminisced about this trip as she ran over the same terrain.
It was an experience of resilience and trying to see how far the mind can go and the body can go.
Maddie McNair is a renowned Nunavut explorer who confirms that Jacquard is the first woman to run the pass in under 24 hours. But Jacquard says that doesn't mean she'll be doing any more extreme runs. But she does say that now she's not afraid to try any project that seems impossible. Megan Dooling, CBC News, at Iqaluit.
They are new rules that are meant to protect the Canadian air traveler, but there are, of course, concerns that the rules don't have as much teeth as they should. After the break, we'll meet with one couple who fought and won.
The complaints over Canada's new airline passenger rights are piling up. The airlines say they are committed to following the new rules.
But travelers who have been bumped from their flights say they've had to fight with airlines to get them to pay the new penalties. The CBC's Jacqueline Hansen has the story of one dedicated couple who fought and won.
The best part was a once-in-a-lifetime honeymoon to Italy cut short when Chelsea Williamson and her husband were bumped from their flight.
I was a bit shocked that we didn't find out about it until we were actually trying to board the aircraft.
At the gate, they were told WestJet had switched to a smaller aircraft. They were put on a later flight and missed 5 hours of sightseeing. Williamson complained to WestJet, expecting it to be covered by Canada's new airline passenger rights.
Doesn't qualify for denied boarding under the new regulations.
WestJet said it didn't meet the bar. Instead, it offered credits of $125 each. But according to the new rules, passengers who are denied boarding and delayed less than 6 hours are entitled to $900.
Maybe they were hoping that I wasn't as informed as I was, and they could just skate by kind of offering a whoops, sorry.
Williamson complained to the Canadian Transportation Agency. Since the new denied boarding rules came into effect in mid-July, the CTA says it's received 147 complaints. 67 involve Air Canada, 24 against WestJet, and 27 against other airlines.
I expect there'll be thousands more complaints per year, and that's a good thing.
There are more rules coming in December that cover delays and cancellations. All the major Canadian airlines say they intend to fully comply.
So we'll have a transitional period when these rules are tested, if you will, and hopefully they'll be settled down fairly quickly.
In Williamson's case, WestJet says, following an internal investigation, we recognize that we failed to meet our obligations to these guests. Complaining paid off. WestJet sent the couple $900 each. Now the transportation agency is investigating whether WestJet's policies on flight changes comply with the new rules. The airline says it's cooperating. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
Saudi Arabia has laid out evidence to bolster its claim that Iran was behind last weekend's attack on Saudi oil fields.
As Stephen D'Souza reports, the U.S. said it would tighten sanctions on Iran, but remained vague about any other retaliation.
This is the one have attacked.
Standing before the court of world opinion, the Saudi Arabian military laid out its evidence, accusing Iran of sponsoring the weekend attack on its oil fields. Fragments of the 18 drones it says were used, pieces of 3 cruise missiles they say fell short of their target.
It was an assault to the international community, a deliberate attempt to disrupt the global economy and the energy industry.
Houthi rebels based in Yemen claimed responsibility for the attack on a giant Saudi oil facility.
You can see
using security camera footage, the Saudis say the attack came from the north, from Iran or Iraq, not Yemen in the south.
Iran's continued aggression, sponsorship of terrorist groups, and interference in maritime commerce represent a common threat to us all.
But the Saudis did not directly accuse Iran of launching the assault and stopped short of threatening a military response. This is U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in the region to meet Saudi officials, called out Iran's actions, telling reporters off camera that Iran's actions were an act of war. But Pompeo's tough stance wasn't backed up by the president today. After tweeting over the weekend that the U.S. was locked and loaded, Donald Trump was non-committal today.
There are many options, and there's the ultimate option, and there are options a lot less than that, and we'll see. We're in a very powerful position.
That ultimate option would be war with Iran. Some Republicans are calling for at least a military strike. Trump, though, questioned previous American interventions in the Middle East.
How did going into Iraq work out? So we have a disagreement on that, and you know, there's plenty of time to do some dastardly things.
The United Nations General Assembly is here next week and is seen as an opportunity for the U.S. and Iran to meet. But so far, neither side has committed to any talks. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
The official results from Israel's general election are still too close to call, but unofficial results from the vote yesterday indicate Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former military chief Benny Gantz are neck and neck. Israeli media are reporting with about 90% of the vote counted, Netanyahu's party has one less seat than Gantz's.
The results are what they call a tie. And when you have a tie, it means there's going to be a lot of bargaining back and forth. And that should be very interesting.
A final result might not be announced for days, but the party that comes out ahead will still need to forge alliances with smaller parties to form government. Netanyahu is also dealing with the fact that court cases against him are scheduled to start in 2 weeks. He's facing corruption charges.
The man behind the Brexit referendum is back in the spotlight. Former British Prime Minister David Cameron's new memoir hits shelves tomorrow.
And as the CBC's Cameron McIntosh reports, it's already causing a stir.
In his little bookshop in the town of Pinner, just outside central London, Peter Brook has set up an oasis. A good book, a refreshing drink. Just don't mention the B word.
People are arguing tooth and tongue every single day around the subject of Brexit.
You won't find former Prime Minister David Cameron's new book here.
Our personal view is that we stay fairly apolitical, and as a result of that, we won't be stocking the book, although it's available to customers who want to pre-order it.
It's not the only bookstore taking that position. Cameron's biography comes 3 years after losing the referendum on Brexit and resigning. The man accused of breaking Britain isn't quite apologizing.
Am I sorry about the state the country's got into? Yes. Do I feel I have some responsibility for that? Yes. It was my referendum, my campaign, my decision to try and renegotiate. And I accept all of those things.
It's criticism of one-time ally, now Prime Minister Boris Johnson, that's really getting attention.
He thought that the Brexit vote would be lost, but he didn't want to give up the chance of being on the romantic, patriotic, nationalistic side of Brexit.
Provocative timing as Johnson's handling of Brexit has Britain on edge.
It pours fuel on the fire, I think, because it goes right back to what some people consider were illegitimate tactics used by the Leave campaign, whose head, of course, was Boris Johnson.
Pinner voted Leave. Along its high street, Cameron's relevance is debatable.
He ballsed up, didn't he? And I don't really want to hear his excuses.
I certainly have voted for Brexit, but it would be nice to get another angle.
Unlike Margaret Atwood's bestseller, Cameron's book isn't getting a lot of national promotion.
Have you had anyone come in asking for the book?
At this stage, no. I don't think it will be long until it's discounted.
And unlikely to be the final word in a legacy still being written. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, London.
It's an innovative idea, one that promises to clean the air around us. We'll take you inside a unique facility that captures carbon next.
Swedish teenager Greta Thunberg appeared before a U.S. congressional hearing today. The climate activist delivering a short message.
I am submitting this report as my testimony because I don't want you to listen to me. I want you to listen to the scientists.
The report calls for dramatic change to prevent temperatures from rising 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2030. Thunberg was one of 4 young students invited to speak. She and other young people worldwide are leading massive coordinated strikes from schools with dates this Friday and next. The goal is to raise awareness of climate change.
And one of the technologies that could play a part in fighting that change is being put through its paces right here in the Lower Mainland.
Direct air capture is a process that promises to strip CO2 out of the atmosphere, and Carbon Engineering hopes its expanding Squamish facility will prove the tech can work in the real world. So we sent a camera to have a look.
Yeah, so this is our direct air capture facility here in Squamish, British Columbia. Inside this piece of equipment here is a large fan. It's sat on the top. That fan is going to pull the air through and then through a filter. And as the air passes through, 80% of the carbon dioxide from the air is pulled out. Next thing we do is we put it inside a pellet reactor. So this is what the pellet reactor produces, very small pellets of calcium carbonate. They are 40% CO2. They split and they produce CO2 and oxygen. We capture the CO2, we use the oxygen to help us drive the temperature inside here. So as we make the CO2 more and more concentrated from the air, in reverse, we remake the chemicals that are part of the process. You have a continuous cycle like this, which means that the plant has no consumables, no chemical consumables. So when you add that process on top of equipment that is readily available and used at scale in industry today, we believe we have a solution that can be deployed at great scale and very cost effectively. Our next step will be a 1 megaton facility, which will be in Texas. And that's the type of scale where you start to make a difference. That's the work of about 40 million trees in that one plant. It's a way in which you have an additional tool. We're constantly pulling CO2 out of the atmosphere while we take our time to stop emitting here on the planet.
Back to our top story now tonight. A photo taken in 2001 that dropped like a bombshell on the campaign trail today.
It's a picture of Justin Trudeau in brownface.
Justin Trudeau is apologizing tonight with the opposition on the attack, calling out the Liberal leader as a hypocrite. Asked if he'd consider resigning, Trudeau says no. He has also admitted to appearing in brownface or blackface, painting his face a color in a high school drama production.
We heard from Jagmeet Singh and Andrew Scheer earlier tonight. Now, just moments ago, actually, we're going to hear from Scheer right now on what he's saying about it.
Like all Canadians, I was extremely shocked and disappointed when I learned of Justin Trudeau's actions this evening. Wearing brownface is an act of open mockery and racism. It was just as racist in 2001 as it is in 2019. And what Canadians saw this evening is someone with a complete lack of judgment and integrity, and someone who's not fit to govern this country.
We've also heard from Green Party leader Elizabeth May. She's tweeted out that she's deeply shocked by the photo, and we also hit the streets today to get reaction from Vancouverites on the picture. Here's what they have to say.
It does matter. I think there should be awareness of, that it's, hurtful to some people. So, not sure if the Prime Minister was doing it intentionally or not to be racist, but I think, he should definitely answer for some of that.
I think it's good that he's saying something about it and addressing it. I'd have to kind of look into what he actually said to see, my opinions on it, but...
It's a pass. We all have a pass. Yeah. I have it, you have it, he had it. It's time to, it's enjoyment time. What's wrong with it?
And that photo they're talking about was taken in 2001 at a party here in Vancouver.
At West Point Grey Academy.
So we're going to have much more on that story tonight, coming up at 10 o'clock on The National. And Dan, of course, is here at 11.
Have a wonderful night.